Thank you, and let me know if you can't hear me, and I will put on a microphone. Well, Mark has mentioned OSPAR, and others have also mentioned OSPAR's work, and I'm sure that not all of you are aware of what OSPAR really is, especially Americans. I mean, Norwegians and things like that, we, of course, know what OSPAR is. And so this is like giving you a little insight to how OSPAR works and how we actually implement the ecosystem approach within the Northeast Atlantic. So OSPAR is a convention that was established in '92, but actually it's two conventions. It's the Oslo Convention from '72 and the Paris Convention also from '72 that dealt with dumping and land-based pollution that was merged after the summit in '92 into OSPAR. So OSPAR deals with, of course, the Northeast Atlantic, preventing and eliminating pollution, and adopting an ecosystem approach to human activities. So it's human activities that OSPAR is focusing on and the impact that has on the marine environment for the Northeast Atlantic. We have guiding principles because in opposite to the Arctic Council, this is a legal binding convention. We preferably have it by consensus, the way we work, but it's legally binding, and our convention text is actually legally binding. And we have both within our convention text the precautionary principle, the polluters pays principle, and also we have the ecosystem approach. So, as you see, it covers really a huge area. It's not only the Arctic, because we also have Portugal, the Azores, and things like that. The South, like Northeast Atlantic. So it's a huge area with 16 contracting parties. Well, 15 contracting parties of the European Union. So we have a diverse interest within that region that is trying to work together to develop recommendations, decisions, and agreements. So how we work we have like an OSPAR strategy. We have a Northeast Atlantic strategy, which guides a principle for what we're doing. And then we have thematic strategies, which are linked up with the committees that we have. We have 5 different committees, which you will see later in the presentation, that deals with the science that underpins the political and policy decisions that we take within the OSPAR recommendation. So the work in practice is like with the Arctic Council, as you know, that they have the SAOs that meets, and then they have the ministers that meet. We have the commission that meets every single year and takes decision on all recommendation decisions and agreements that have been developed by the committees. And how it works is that the committees are led by contracting parties, and all contracting parties, if they wish, participate. It is science-based within the committees that are leading up to policy decision. But it has to be said that even though that our committees are science-based, all the time we have the policy knowledge in the back of our mind because we are legally binding convention and the decisions we're taking are legally binding. So we take decisions which are legally binding, then we have recommendations which are, well, they're not legally binding, but they are in theory, they are binding, and then we have other agreements with like our management plans and our guidance and strategies for monitoring that we also have within that category. So this is just what I explained already, how we work. What is important here is actually that we also have a body that is called the juris linguistics. And these are lawyers from contracting parties that goes through all our decision recommendations and agreements to see if they are within the legal mandate of OSPAR, if they are applicable to the overall mandate we have from UNCLOS as a regional sea conventions, and also if the implementation complies with the overall mandate within OSPAR and members and contracting parties within the different regions that we have. So, of course, our overall aim is to apply an ecosystem approach to the managing the human activities within the Northeast Atlantic, which, of course, is a huge challenge, and we haven't done it to perfectness, because, as I said, we cover a lot of different interests within our region, within Northeast Atlantic. We have Portugal and Spain on one end, and then we have Norway and Iceland and Denmark on behalf of Greenland, also in the Arctic region. So, of course, we have different interests within OSPAR. So these are like our 5 different committees, and then we have the cross-cutting issues. And the cross-cutting issues is actually where we deal with cross-cutting issues like climate change, ocean acidification, but also the Marine Strategy Framework Directive that Mark mentioned is his presentation on OSPAR, and which is guiding good environmental status for the European seas. We have the BEC, and which works on species and habitats and the development and establishment of marine protected areas. Then we have hazardous substances and eutrophication, which is a committee that works on eutrophication, yes, and then contaminants. Then we have human activities, which works on, well, everything apart from offshore and radioactive substance, because they have their own committees. But human activities, their focus is noise, marine litter, wind farms, and etc. It has a broad mandate and a broad strategy, and their issue right now is that OSPAR has developed and adopted a marine litter management plan that is being adopted within contracting parties to OSPAR. And then we have the cross-cutting issues, which I said is MSFD, also on and climate change, because this is an overarching issue that has concerns for all of the committees. Within the cross-cutting issues, we also have something called Network of North Sea Prosecutors, which is a forum within OSPAR that deals with compliance, implementation, and prosecution of the agreements that we done, but also the International Maritime Organization, IMO, MARPOL, the implementation of the annexes we have there, garbage from shipping, oil pollution from shipping, emission of sulfur, and NOx areas. That's what they deal with as well. And within that fora, it's being discussed how to deal with evidence to prosecute cruise ships or whatever that goes into harbors and don't have the right sulfur content in their fuel. And this, I think, is a very valuable mechanism we have within OSPAR, that we look at the implementation of an agreements and recommendation, but also look at the implementation of other international decisions that has been taken and how we can bring it forward and learn from each other in our implementation and prosecution of other agreements. Oops. So it's all about the human activities and these interacts, and this is the only way we can adopt or implement an ecosystem approach. It's within working with a lot of different organizations and a lot of different areas of human activities. And OSPAR has no fisheries, like a lot of other talks we're focusing on fisheries. OSPAR's mandate doesn't cover fisheries at all. It covers that we have recommendation on protection of threatened species, where some fish species are threatened. Elasmobranchs, we have a lot of elasmobranchs that we have recommendations for, and people with sharks included. But for implementing these recommendations, we need to have a broader cooperation with other organizations, because these are not within our mandates to manage fisheries. Then we also have, with shipping, the OSPAR Secretariat actually hosts and run the Bonn Agreement. The Bonn Agreement is a North Sea agreement that was developed in 1968, but was operational from 1977. And the Bonn Agreement is an agreement with 9 countries around the North Sea and deals with the impact of shipping and shipping accidents in the North Sea, and both compliance but also surveys and risk assessment and emergency measures for that. So the OSPAR Secretariat still has a very broad mandate within human activities that develops and influence the Northeast Atlantic. But as I said, with human activities, we have a legal mandate which is not broad enough to deal with fisheries and other areas. So we, of course, like other organizations, tend to work closely together with other regional organizations, like Mark was mentioning HELCOM, yeah, and we also with other regional fisheries management organizations. And we just had a collective arrangement with NIAF because we developed or adopted marine protected areas outside national jurisdiction, the Charlie Gills, and as we needed to have measures that could implement the MPA, we also negotiated and made an agreement with NIAF, and they has also closed off the area for fisheries. So for OSPAR, it's very important that with other organizations that we complement each other and that we have cooperation with them. And these are just some of the cooperation that we have with international organization. I have also mentioned ISIS and EA and EMSA because this is where we, of course, deals with and coordinate with the data. NIAF, we have the fisheries, NASCO, we have the salmon because we made a recommendation to, because salmon is threatened, so we made a recommendation salmon, but to actually have the impact and implement the recommendation, we needed to have a cooperation with NASCO, so we have a cooperation with NASCO. Of course, we have with the seabed organization authorities because the MPAs we have, some of them are not only the water column but also the seabed, so we need to have a closer cooperation with them. The Abidjan Convention, which is the Atlantic coast of West Africa, I know we are Northeast Atlantic, but we work closely with them because they are making protocols on offshore activities, and as OSPAR has engaged very closely with and with success on decreasing discharges of chemicals from offshore installations. We have worked closely with the Abidjan Convention to assist them in writing their protocol so they can learn from our mistakes, but also our successes. And then, of course, HELCOM is just around the corner, so we work very closely with HELCOM on a lot of issues, and also deals with the monitoring of the data, so we don't ask some of the members, some of the contracting parties that are contract parties to HELCOM and OSPAR, that we don't put too much pressure on them with data, but that we share the data that we have. And of course, the Barcelona Convention and the Black Sea. So for OSPAR, it's vital that there is cooperation and coordination, and that we, with the other organizations that are available, that we complement each other with the work we are doing, because we think that's the only thing that we can actually have implemented the legal decisions that we adopt within OSPAR. And so to close it off, because this is the Arctic and we OSPAR, and we have an area that overlap, we of course think it's really important that the working groups under the Arctic Council and the committees, as we call them within OSPAR, that they have a much closer cooperation and complement each other in the work they're doing, especially because OSPAR has a legal mandate, Arctic Council hasn't got a legal mandate. OSPAR thinks policy within the committees, and what we heard from the presentation here was there was a little bit of lag. So what about the science that comes? Where does it feed into the policy? Where does the Arctic states implement it within their legal framework? And even though it's, like we have 5 of our contracting parties are within the Arctic Council, of course we don't have the US and Canada and Russia for good reasons, but still we think that there is a good chance and an opportunity for us to share the information that we have. Both an Amon and HASAC already now, they're working on looking at their monitoring guidelines with HELCOM as well to see if we can actually streamline that so we don't have monitoring guidelines that are all different but are similar. With CAF and PEMA and BDC, we're all working on marine protected areas. So maybe sort of focus a little bit more so we can all benefit from each other's work. Failures and successes, and OSPAR is working on the coherence of our marine protected areas, but also management plans for it. And as we heard from the Canada, that that they had questions and issues with their management plan, how they're working, how they're implementing. And I think that even though it's a different North Atlantic, different region, that where they have the MPAs, we can still benefit from having a discussion with each other within the Arctic Council to see where implementation work, where there are obstacles. And then of course KM and OIC, because the offshore installations and the guidance that OSPAR has had great success in reducing discharges to the marine environment, and I think that could benefit from the work that are starting and have been carried out for a few years within the Arctic Council. We are working on new emerging issues within the offshore installation, microplastics in discharges of chemicals, and of course noise and light from offshore installations. So there's also not overlaps, but we could definitely complement each other so we don't reinvent the wheel every single time we sit in a committee and discuss the same issues. And then, because my time is running out, then there's AHA, which marine litter. I don't know if any of you saw a report that came out recently, a research that showed that, now it was the UK it was focusing on, but it's Western Europe, that a lot of the litter actually ends up in the Arctic and ends up in the Barents Sea, and therefore I think that as OSPAR has a management plan that is being adopted by contracted parties, that we could benefit with cooperating within Arctic Council. So let me just leave it at that. Thank you.